In this video, we are going to look at the final method of graphing quadratics. And so we're going to be looking at graphing quadratics in intercept form. So it's called intercept form because we are going to be able to see the x-intercepts. So let's review what that means. So if I were to take a graph, a coordinate plane, and draw a parabola on it, let's just say I draw this U-shaped graph. So the areas where it crosses the x-axis, like right here and right here, those are called the x-intercepts. And so we can use those intercepts when we graph. They are going to also be beneficial when we start solving these equations. So in this problem, the P and the Q represent the numbers on the x-axis. So when we write intercepts, the x-intercepts are going to be written in the form of whatever the number P is, comma 0, and whatever the number Q is, comma 0. Because remember, when you're on the x-axis here, the ordered pairs are always the number, comma 0, the number, comma 0, because you're not traveling vertically. Okay, so that's one item. The other thing to notice too, see how it says minus P minus Q. So it's going to be very similar to intercept or to vertex form when we have to look at the opposite sign. Now we do have a small little formula to find the vertex. Okay, so to find the vertex, you are going to average the numbers for P and Q. So I'm going to write here average P and Q. So when you average two numbers, you add them up and divide by 2. So to get the x value, so I'm going to say x is equal to P plus Q divided by 2. Okay, so if it's going to be 0 and 10, 0 plus 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay, so that's going to give us the x coordinate. To get the y coordinate, you do the same thing we did on standard. We just substitute back into the equation. So substitute x back into equation. Okay, so we're going to substitute x back into the original equation. So this is called intercept form because I can really easily see the x-intercepts where it crosses the x-axis. All right, so let's just identify some items on the first few examples. So we're going to find the x-intercepts, the vertex, and the axis of symmetry. Okay, so I'm going to write the format above it. Y equals A, and then parentheses, x minus P, parentheses, x minus Q. All right, so I'm going to jump down here just a little bit. So my P value is just 2. So I'm going to write over here, my P value is 2. Now my Q value, see how it says plus 1? So my Q value is actually negative 1. So it's the same thing we did on vertex form. We have to really do the opposite sign. So those are my intercepts. It is going to be 2, comma 0, negative 1, comma 0. That's where it crosses the x-axis. Now to find the vertex. So I'm going to do x equals, I'm going to add P and Q. So 2 plus negative 1 divided by 2. So add across the top, 2 plus negative 1 is 1. So 1 divided by negative 2 is 0.5. So I'm going to put it in my vertex as a decimal, because if I were to graph it, I'd want to turn it into a decimal anyways. Okay, to get the y value, now plug 1/2 or 0.5 in for x. So I guess I'll leave it as f of x. Remember, f of x is really just the same as y. So I'm going to do 1/2 times 0.5 minus 2 times 0.5 plus 1. And you can grab your calculator and just type this in just like that if you want to, or you can individually, work with the parentheses. So type that in and make sure you match. I get this decimal. I get negative 1.125. Okay, so make sure you match that. Now I'm not graphing this one, so this would be a little bit harder to graph, but I'm just doing some of identifying here. Okay, axis of symmetry is still going to be the x value. X equals 0.5. And then I skipped the circling, so let me go back to that. So we are, the a value is a half. So that's positive, it opens up. That means the vertex is at the bottom, it's a minimum, and 1/2 will make it wider. Okay, number 2. All right, the P, let me kind of separate that out. All right, the P value is -3. The Q value is +5. So do your opposite sign. So I have x equals, add them together, -3 plus 5, and then divided by 2. So I have to add before I divide. So that's going to be 2 divided by 2, which is 1. So it's 1 comma something. Now I'm going to plug it in. So y equals 4, and then parentheses, 1 plus 3, and then 1 minus 5. And then we just do the math. So like I said, I would just type that in. We should get -64. So I would double check that you match me on that, because this should be an area that once you get past the average, plugging in should be easy. So if you're making a mistake on that, let's check. Axis of symmetry is x equals 1. Okay, my intercepts are going to be -3 comma 0, 5 comma 0. And then let's see, A is 4. So positive is opening up. That means the vertex is at the bottom, minimum. 4 is going to make it narrow. Okay, I want you to pause and do number 3. When you have number 3, come back to the video. Okay, identify your P and Q as -7 and 3, and so I've got my intercepts. I averaged them together to get -2, plugged in -2 to get 25, so there's your vertex. X equals -2, axis of symmetry. And then your A value here is a -1. So it's opening down, which makes the vertex at the top at the maximum, and so since it's 1, it's the same. Okay, so we're going to graph a couple next. When we move on to graphing, the rest is the same. I'm making a T-chart, putting my vertex in the middle. Now, I think you'll find that these points often fall in the table, but you can use these in the table if you want. And so then from there, we just plot our points and continue on. Okay, let's go to the first graphing. All right, so it says to state your intercepts. And so your intercepts are these 2 ordered pairs right here. We are going to find the vertex. We're going to do the axis of symmetry. We're going to graph it. We're going to plot points, and we're going to use symmetry and then do domain and range. Okay, so we have, I like to write out if I'm doing my intercepts, I like to identify the P value is 3, the Q value is 1. So what I can do before I go any further, if I want to, those are my intercepts. So now put them in an ordered pair. 3, 0, oops, 1, 0. Okay, now let's calculate the x-coordinate of the vertex. So you're going to average the 2 numbers. So we've got 3 plus 1 divided by 2. So 3 plus 1 is 4, which gives me 2. Okay, so the coordinate for vertex, the x value is 2. Now I'm just going to substitute back into the equation. So I'm going to do y equals 2 and then parentheses, plug in 2 for x. So 2 minus 3 and then 2 minus 1. And so now I just do the math. I literally can type that into my calculator. So that will give me a -2. So my vertex is 2, -2. My axis of symmetry is x equals 2. I'm going to make my table. So put your vertex in the middle still. So 2, -2. So then I can go subtract 1. So that'd be 1, 0, and then now go back to 2 and add 1, 3, and 4. Now here's what I want you to see. Do you see how my x-intercept is 3, 0, and my y-intercept is 1, 0? Well, I can go ahead and put that in the table, and you see how that makes symmetry on either side? So I just have one more to solve for. Let's just plug in 0 maybe. Now I'm going to erase this in a minute, but if you want to plug in 0, you can do 0 minus 3 and then 0 minus 1, okay? Or you could plug the 4 in. But I would end up with 6 for both of these. Okay, now let's plot. So 0, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is up here. 1, 0, 2, -2, 3, 0. So here's my symmetry. I can tell it's, oops, not right there. Okay. And then make your U through your points. Okay, and then let's see, let me finish off domain and range and I'll go back to my circling. I skipped that. All right, domain, all real numbers. So -infinity to +infinity. Okay, my range, the bottom of my graph, the lowest y value is this right here, which is -2, and then it's going up forever. So I'm going to have -2 as the smallest number, all the way up to infinity as largest. Okay, so my circling, it's positive, it's opening up, and you can tell it did that on the graph. The vertex is at the bottom, it's at a minimum, and it's a little bit narrow because we're dealing with a 2 for the a value. Okay, I want you to pause and do the last one all by yourself, and then come back to the video and check your graph. Okay, get your P and your Q. Now I'm going to do my vertex. All right, so I got 0, and then now I'm going to plug 0 in. So -0 minus 2, and then 0 plus 2. So that is going to give me a 4. All right, so there's your vertex. I'm going ahead and do that axis of symmetry. And then let's make a T-chart. All right, vertex is in the middle, so down by 2, up by 2. And I look, okay, here are my intercepts. So 2, 0, -2, 0. So 2, 0, -2, 0. And then let's just plug 1 in. I'll just write over here to the side. Let's plug in maybe, I'm going to plug in +1. So -1 minus 2 times 1 plus 2. All right, that is going to give me 3, which will give me 3 here. Okay, let's graph. -2, 0, 3, 0, 4, 1, 3, 2, 0. All right, so make your U. I'll go back to my circling. It is opening down by the negative, so A is -1. It's the vertex is at the maximum point. It's the same. And then domain. All real numbers, -infinity, +infinity. The smallest number in the range, the smallest y is -infinity up to +4. Okay, that wraps up graphing quadratics in Intercept.